Hi guys, and welcome to another batch of mini reviews. If you don't know, this series is basically where I review 7 films in the time that it would normally take me to review just one. We've got a wide variety today, from the low budget to the big budget, from shark exploitation to religious exploitation, so let's dive into it. I'm going to take these films in the exact order in which I watched them, so we will begin with this one. So first up, we've got Wolverstone. This is a werewolf movie directed by a guy called Joseph Cornelissen, but thank you to him for sending me the code for this. So this is a film about a young woman called Claire. She's a werewolf herself, and she lives on the fringes of society. She doesn't talk to that many people. She gets by selling some kind of homemade drug. I don't actually know what the drug does now that I think about it. This film is very thin on story. Like, we spend most of it following Claire as she goes about her day-to-day business. And then towards the end, she gets into some shenanigans with a couple of local hoodlums, and a werewolf transformation is required. But this film is not really about the story. It's more of a vibe film. It's a film to just chill out to. It's an incredible looking film. Like, the lighting throughout this is amazing, and so many cool looking random shots. I'm quite sure I didn't understand the purpose of all the shots in the movie, and there are probably so many things about the plot that I didn't pick up on, because this movie asks you to figure out a lot of things by yourself, which is fine, but it's just so different to any other werewolf movie I've ever seen, really. It is very low budget, but it does a lot with its money, and the actual werewolf transformation that you get is fantastic. It really depicts the whole thing as extremely painful, almost like childbirth. And actually, you know what? When I try and think of what a transformation would be like, yeah, it probably would be extremely painful, to the point where I would spend most of my life trying to focus on not going down that rabbit hole, just trying to stay as human as possible for as long as possible. So this is a really cool film. It's something different. It's either already out, available to rent, or it's imminently about to come out. So look it up on Google and give it a rent. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5, which is a really strong score, given the fact that it's probably the lowest budget in this video by some margin. So next up, we have Shark Season, and sadly we have arrived at our stinker of the week, because this film is awful. It's about these 3 youngsters who are going out to sea on a boat for some kind of photo shoot. So one of these people is a young blonde girl. She looks about 15, to be honest. And when they all get out onto these rocks that they've been heading to, they get attacked by sharks, and suddenly they're stranded in the middle of the ocean. They've got to try and cobble a boat together to get out. I was losing interest in this very, very fast. The characters are extremely bland. Given that we've got 2 girls and a guy in this situation, that they could have had like a love triangle going on at least. Give us a bit of drama, But no, the guy is only interested in one of these girls. And the girl who is therefore the third wheel, she's not even interested in the guy. So there's nothing going on there. The sharks are really crap to look at. I mean, it's like someone designed them on their laptop at home, like on a really bad paint program or something. They're so bad, they literally take me out of the movie. I don't think I've ever seen shark effects as obviously CGI as these ones. They're really poor. And most strangely of all about this movie, Michael Madsen's in it, the famous actor who was in Reservoir Dogs and all those really cool Tarantino films. He was in Die Another Day as well. He's in this film. He's not one of the 3 people who are stranded. He's the father of the young blonde model. He's back on land, and he gets wind of what's going on quite early in the movie. So we keep cutting back to him as he's on the radio trying to get the Coast Guard out and stuff like that. Why he did this film, I have no idea. I had no idea he was so desperate for cash that he would do something like this. 1 out of 5, and it was lucky to get that. Next up, we have The Ledge. This is about a couple of young women who are on holiday together. They're going mountaineering, but before they do any actual climbing, they come across this group of guys. And at first, the 2 groups mix quite well, and there's a bit of flirting going on. But then one of the guys accidentally kills one of the girls during some botched rape attempt, I think. And once the other girl gets wind of what's happened, she runs off. all the guys give chase, thinking, well, we're going to have to kill the other one now just to cover the whole thing up, kind of a thing. This girl, because she's quite good at mountaineering, she escapes up a cliff face, and the other guys, they're not really mountain climbers. So because they don't have her expertise, they've got to try and find their way up to where she is, but in a really kind of amateurish way. And this girl basically just parks herself on the cliff face and says, I'm not going anywhere. You're going to have to come and get me. So the rest of the movie is almost like a singular location scenario where these guys have got to try and get this girl any way that they can. And it's quite nerve-wracking watching this. I didn't feel like my immersion was ruined at any time throughout this by bad effects. I mean, obviously the main actors are not actually on some cliff face really high up, that there's some kind of studio trickery going on, but it's not really obvious. So that's a good uptick for the movie, if you like. Lots of really tense moments where the girl almost falls off the cliff. She sets up a tent at one point that's literally hanging off the cliff, and that starts swinging in the wind, and every now and again a guy will get sort of close to her and there might be a little bit of a tussle. Pretty good stuff on the whole. I enjoyed this. The only downside is the main villain. He's awful. They've made him too evil. It's like whoever wrote this guy just thought, right, I'm going to make the most evil guy I can think of, and that doesn't necessarily make for a good villain. You know, you want a little bit that's interesting about any villain. You can't just make him completely evil to the point where he's not even believable, and that's kind of what this villain is. But leaving that aside, this was an all right film. I think I might have caught it on Amazon Prime, maybe. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. Next up, we have The Triangle. This is not to be confused with the film where Melissa George is lost at sea and there's a guy with a burlap mask running around. No, this is The Triangle. It's got a "the" in front of it, so you can distinguish. This is a found footage movie about a group of documentary makers. They go and stay at a commune in the middle of nowhere, USA. This little society of people, they basically decided that they hate modern life so much that they're just going to start their own little community, grow their own food, live in tents, etc., survive without technology. But when these documentarians come along, is that a word? Obviously, there's going to be some kind of horror that's about to happen, and you can tell from the start of this that not everybody at the commune is happy about these people turning up with their cameras. So we're just waiting throughout a lot of the runtime for things to kick off, and eventually they do. I'm not going to say what happens, obviously, but there's more than one threat in this movie. There's obviously the danger from the people who live in the commune. There's also a mysterious cave a few hundred yards away from the tents. There's a mysterious sound coming out of the cave, and if I've not tickled your interest by now, then I probably never will. I guess some people will have already been put off by the words found footage, but this is not a bad little film at all. I kind of enjoyed this. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5, but if you've still not seen the Melissa George Triangle, then please prioritise that one. Next up, we have Talk to Me. This is a film which got a lot of traction either last year or the year before. I missed out on it when it was at the cinema because, well, there was this one weekend where it was showing, but I turned down the chance to go and see it because there was another film on that I wanted to see, and I wish I could remember what that other film was now, actually. But since this film ended its theatrical run, I've been chomping at the bit to see it because its reputation is so strong, and I finally watched it on Sky Cinema about a week and a half ago. And I've got to say, I was a little bit underwhelmed, given how much people have gone on about this film. So the story concerns a group of youngsters, one of whom owns this weird artifact of a hand kind of a thing. And any character who says to this hand, "Talk to me," they're inviting into their body like a spirit or a demon that will then possess them and speak in a really antagonistic way to whoever just happens to be floating around at the time. So there's a little bit of an Evil Dead type vibe here. I was enjoying it for a while. The prologue's really strong and there are some good setups after that, but I just didn't really care for where the story went in the second half. It's a very original film, I think, but I don't know, it just didn't grab me on a personal level, and I was a little bit fed up by the end. I mean, I'm still going to give it 3 out of 5 because I can see the qualities that the film has, and Please bear in mind as well that I'm just one person, and this film is very, very well liked among the horror community. Lots and lots of people have talked this film up over the past year or so. It's going to get a sequel as well. I probably won't see that one at the cinema, but I'd say the first one is just about strong enough that I would check out the sequel on streaming. But it's just one of those things. I'm not going to like every single popular horror film out there, and this is one that, whilst not terrible, it's certainly not destined to become one of my favourites of recent times. We've arrived at our film of the week. The First Omen is excellent, but I'm not going to go into it too much today because I enjoyed this so much. I'm kind of a mind to do a full Omen review series now. Maybe not straight away, but later this year possibly I'll start that. So I'll divulge the bulk of my thoughts about The First Omen when I do a proper review for it. So consider this to be a kind of out of the theatre reaction, albeit delayed by a couple of weeks, because it's been a fortnight now since I saw the film. Really, really good stuff, though. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5, and I might have even given it more than that, but for the fact that the ending is a little bit iffy, there's a bit of sequel baiting going on that really didn't need to be there, but everything up until the final 5 minutes, really, really awesome stuff. There seems to be a whole spate of really good religious horror coming out at the moment. The week before I saw The First Omen, I saw Immaculate. I reviewed that on this channel and gave that a really good score as well, and it only seems like 5 minutes ago that we had The Nun 2, another film that I really enjoyed involving nuns and convents and stuff. So yeah, anything religious at the moment is completely in vogue when it comes to horror. I'm not even a massive Omen fan from like years gone by. Obviously the first one's a classic that I've seen every now and again. I remember watching number 2 on TV in the 90s. I saw number 4 as well on TV and thought that was reasonable. But I've not seen any of them in so long. And I think that's why I've suddenly got an appetite now on the back of this film to go and revisit the entire franchise. So yeah, that is something that's going to come on the channel, I think. Just to offset any potential confusion, let me tell you, this is not a film about the legendary darts player Phil the Power Taylor. This is about a carer who works in a care home in the middle of London. I actually saw this on the same night that I saw The First Omen, so I came back from the cinema, plonked myself on the settee, saw that it was still only 11 o'clock, and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to watch another movie here. So I went on Shudder, came across this film, The Power. I'd never heard of it before, but I was feeling in an adventurous mood because of the fact that I was so super pumped from having watched The First Omen. So I threw it on, and at first I actually thought it was another nun film, but no, this is about a carer, and she's on her first weekend on the job. She's given a night shift to do, but there's a blackout, there's no electricity in this part of London for the entire night. So this girl, she's wandering around this massive building with just like a lantern, trying to look after these old people, but then some supernatural shenanigans happen, and there's at least one really nasty human character in the building as well. I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but it's a decent little watch this, helped by a really good performance by the main final girl, which did not go unnoticed. I'm still only going to give the film 3 out of 5. I mean, it's not amazing or anything, but for just a random thing that I picked up on Shudder, I think, I'd never heard of it and it was free to watch. Yeah, I had an all right time with it. It gave me what I wanted from the rest of my evening, having already seen at least one excellent film in The First Omen. So that is The Power, worth checking out. Just to recap the video to this point, best film that I've talked about today is The First Omen. The worst one is Shark Season, and please check out Wolver's Stain as well and give that film a read. But I'll leave it there for today. I'll be back soon, eventually, to do another volume of mini reviews. Until then, cheerio, bye-bye.